Good evening, one and all. I welcome all the participants to day 14 of 1 month virtual internship cum training program on IoT project development using industry grade microcontroller. In yesterday's session, I was discussing about use of timer 0 using polling method and interrupt method. After that, I discussed uh, relay driver circuit and different types of relays. Before I proceed further, I would like to play video of contactor and current transformer. So first of all, I am playing video of contactor. In this video, I will explain three-phase contactor. Before I play the video, let me tell you, for switching the high power load like induction motors or air conditioner or other devices, relay is not suitable because relay has smaller current rating. So we can use contactor in place of relay when we are supposed to switch large amount of current. So contactors can be used for larger current even up to 1000 ampere. Contactor. Three-phase contactors are used for controlling AC load like induction motor. In this three-phase contactor, there is one more contact called auxiliary contact. Auxiliary contact is used for connecting power indicator. These three-phase contactors are rated for load. This contactor is manufactured by Siemens company. Part number is written here 3TFT30 10 ampere. With help of this contactor, it is three-phase contactor. On each contact, current rating is 10 ampere. We can control three-phase load up to 5.5 kilowatt or 7.5 horsepower. Internally, there is electromagnet. Terminals of the electromagnets are available at point A1 on top side here and A2 here. Load to be controlled must be connected here across these terminals. So these are upper terminals, lower terminals. When electromagnet inside the contactor is de-energized, there is no connection between upper and lower terminal, and on the multimeter you will see infinite impedance. Now let us apply 220 volt to electromagnet inside the contactor. You have heard the noise here. Contactor is switched on and you will see upper and lower terminals are short circuited. So impedance is 0, 0, 0. Now it is de-energized. Again contacts are disconnected, showing infinite impedance. So let me put here. So total 3 contacts here and one is auxiliary contact. Auxiliary contact is used for power indication purpose. Pause. In three-phase contactor, there are 3 switches internally and one more auxiliary switch. Auxiliary switch is used for connecting power indicator. Now I want to play video of current transformer and after that I will discuss use of current transformer. In this short video, I will demonstrate use of current transformer for measurement of AC current. In this short video, I will demonstrate use of current transformer for measurement of AC current. There are 2 current transformers used in this measurement. The small CT is used for sensing dry run condition of the motors. This CT is used for relative current measurement. It is not used for actual current measurement. However, it can be also used for actual current measurement. This big CT is industry grade current transformer. It is used for actual current measurement. Size of the CT depends upon maximum current measurement capacity of the CT. This big CT can measure current up to 200 amperes and this small CT can measure current up to 25 amperes. So after 25 amperes, this CT gets saturated. For measurement of AC current, pass either neutral or phase wire of the load. So we have here 200 watt bulb. Any one wire of this bulb pass through this CT like this. So this wire acts as a primary and winding on this CT acts as a secondary. So it becomes transformer. This wire is primary and this winding on the CT is secondary. According to Faraday's law of induction, time rate of change of magnetic field induces voltage across the CT coil. So this current is carrying AC current. This AC current produces circulating magnetic field. This magnetic field passes through the core of the CT, and according to Faraday's law of induction, it induces voltage across coil of the CT. So output of the CT coil is available across these two wires. So output of CT is connected to oscilloscope here, and these two wires are also taken in the breadboard. So what is the purpose of taking two wires in the breadboard is, I would also like to show effect of burden resistor. So let me first of all switch on the load. 200 watt bulb is switched on, and this is output. Frequency of this signal is 50 Hz because this bulb is energized using 220 volt AC 50 Hz. Now I will connect burden resistor across the CT output. I will see that after adding burden resistor, amplitude of the voltage is decreased. So output of the AC voltage is decreased. Now I am removing the burden resistor. Amplitude is increased. Now these big CTs are used for measurement of larger currents like 200 amperes, 300 amperes, 400 amperes and so on. These CTs have very high accuracy, whereas the small CT has lower accuracy and there is some kind of non-linearity. Thank you. So I played video of current transformer. I will discuss use of this current transformer while discussing projects related to power measurement. So first of all, I would like to show you project list. I have showed here only 8 different types of projects. There are plenty of projects you can take up for implementation of IoT concept. So first project I have listed here is IoT based water control system. So we have practically implemented this. Then IoT based fuel level measurement system. During previous sessions, in detail I discussed about implementation of this fuel level measurement system. IoT part will be covered in subsequent sessions. Then third project is IoT based intruder detection system. So this is kind of security system. Say for example, if you have installed some kind of sensor like PID motion sensor or infrared sensor in your shop, and if someone enters into the shop during night time, then sensor will sense it, and using IoT concept, the alarming signal will be transmitted to the cloud, and through cloud, it will be sent to the customer's Android app. Then another project is IoT based classroom electricity control system. In most of the colleges, what happens is that once college gets over, usually electrical appliances like tube lights or ceiling fans, they are not switched off. So they remain on unnecessarily. So through this system, centrally it is possible to switch off the uh, electrical appliances in the classroom. So you can altogether switch off all the devices, or you can selectively control the individual ceiling fan and lighting devices. So that is up to you how to implement this project. Fifth project mentioned here is IoT based electric demand control system. So it is useful for saving the penalty. So project number 5 is useful for reducing the penalty in the electricity bill. I will talk about this project in detail. Project number 6 is IoT based soil moisture measurement system. So I already discussed use of FDC 1004 IC for measurement of fuel level or measurement of moisture level. So with the help of same sensor, that is same method, you can develop a soil moisture measurement system, and it can be IoT based. So you can deploy this sensor in farmland, and you can retrieve data in Android app. Project number 7 IoT based street light control system. Project number 8 is IoT based agriculture pump control system. So project number 8 is quite difficult because there are so many conditions you must take into account while designing this IoT based agriculture pump control system. The critical part is in agriculture sector, available AC voltage is not standard. Voltage may fall down to 280 volt and it may go 480, 490, something like this. So standard voltage is 440, 440 AC volt. But in agriculture sector, many times very low voltage is available, around 280, 320 volt, something like this. So this condition must be taken into account while designing the system. This is the IoT framework that we use in our all IoT based products. So your IoT based product may have some kind of sensors. For example, if it is intruder detection system, then sensor could be infrared system or it could be PIR motion sensor to detect the intruder. So depending upon what application you are developing, sensor will change. If you are controlling AC appliances, then you require driver circuit, and driver circuit basically consists of either relay or contactor. So when your switching load requires larger current, then we need their contactor. And if your switching current is low, you can manage with relay. Then you have microcontroller, Wi-Fi module, and data will be transmitted to and fro from cloud. Same data can be also monitored in Android app. So once you develop basic IoT framework, you can modify sensors, your output will change, and you can develop new product. Let me quickly talk about IoT-based intruder detection system. So for intruder detection, there are number of ways. Two possible methods I have mentioned here: use of PIR motion sensor or infrared sensor. If you are using infrared sensor, then you require transmitter and receiver. So transmitter will transmit infrared signal, may be modulated on some carrier, and receiver will receive it. So in infrared sensor, again there are two methods to check whether intrusion is happen or not. One method is by reflection method. Let me quickly discuss. So I'm discussing here IoT based intruder detection system. So if you are using infrared sensor, in infrared sensor there are two different possibilities. Number one, infrared transmitter and receiver will be at same position. So you will have here infrared transmitter and infrared receiver. They will be placed side by side. RX. Infrared transmitter will continuously transmit infrared energy. Suppose this is the direction. So as long as there is nothing in front of this module, transmit receive module, received signal will be negligible. It will be very small, and it will not be sensed by receiver. Now whenever there is some kind of obstacle for example human being. So if human being stands in front of this transmit receive module, then signal will get reflected from human body and it will be received by this infrared receiver. So if signal strength is sufficiently large, it will be detected as intrusion. So intrusion will be detected. So with the help of microprocessor or microcontroller, continuously output of infrared receiver will be checked. And if it is above threshold, that means intrusion is happen. Then microcontroller will send data to the cloud, and from cloud it will be sent to the Android app, where customer or user will understand intrusion is happen in his premises. Another possibility is you will have infrared transmitter. Here infrared transmitter and receiver are placed side by side. Infrared transmitter and we'll have infrared receiver. So they are placed in front of each other. So infrared transmitter will transmit energy here continuously towards infrared receiver. So in the absence of any obstacle or intrusion, infrared receiver will continuously receive the energy, infrared energy. And when someone passes through this beam of infrared energy, signal falling on the infrared receiver will cut. And that is indication of intrusion. So you can use any method. In the second method, we get longer range. So in the second method, your detection range could go up to 15 or 20 feet. In the first method, your detection range will be limited to 4 or 5 feet. That is the difference. So you can use any one method, and whenever intrusion gets detected, microcontroller will send alarming signal to cloud, and to cloud it will go to the user. Another sensor we can use is PIR motion sensor. PIR motion sensor I have already discussed. I have developed very long range PIR sensor. Let me quickly show you photograph. I have already developed this wireless security system. However, it is GSM based. We are also converting this into IoT based system. This PIR motion sensor which I have developed, it has very long range up to 90 feet. However, this range comes down to around 35 to 40 feet in summer season. Still, it is really excellent even in summer season. So we have here two choices. There could be another method to detect the intrusion. The only thing is method of sensing will be different. Remaining part will be same. Data transmission from microcontroller to cloud and cloud to Android app. This part will be always same for different types of IoT based projects. So whenever there is change in sensor, nature of data will change and nature of controlling output will change. Then another project that I want to discuss is IoT based water management system. This system we have practically implemented on our campus. The problem in water distribution is there is overflow. Many times there is overflow if motor pump is not switched off on right time. And many times user doesn't know what is the water level in the tanks, especially all the tanks are overhead, then there is difficulty in reaching to the tank. So as initial water level is not known, usually operator switches on the water pump, and if he doesn't pay attention, then there is issue of overflow. So depending upon capacity of the water pump, overflow of water may be large. Many times distance between overhead water tank and motor pump is large, especially in villages. Source of water is river or well, and overhead water tank may be inside the village. So distance may be up to 15 kilometers. So therefore, operator doesn't know what is the initial level in the water tank, and many times there is overflow of the water. I have already developed GSM based system. When distance between water this motor pump and overhead water tank is large. We are in the process of converting this system using IoT. Let us look at this table. This table shows wastage of water due to overflow. Say for example, if 10 horsepower motor is used for pumping the water into the overhead water tank, then depending upon distance between motor pump and overhead water tank, the discharge rate of the water will change. So that's why I have shown here variation. So water drawn per hour is around 22,000 liters to 34,000 liters. That depends upon distance between motor and overhead water tank. So if there is overflow for 1 hour for 10 HP motor, then there is wastage of around 22,000 liters of water. And at the same time, there is wastage of electricity. So 10 HP motor consumes around 10 units. 7.5 units per hour. And if rate of the electricity is 10 rupees per unit, then there is wastage of 75 rupees of electricity. So whenever there is overflow, there is wastage of water as well as electricity. If water is purchased from municipal corporation, then for 22,000 liters of water, uh, charges will be around 178 rupees. So altogether, there is wastage of water as well as wastage of electricity. It is not prevented. In our campus, especially hostel campus, we have 24 overhead water tanks, and we have installed this IoT-based electronic system at each and every tank. We are centrally monitoring water level in each tank, and also solenoidal valve installed at the tank side is automatically controlled depending upon water level in the tank. So when water level in the tank is below 30%, valve is automatically switched on, and when tank becomes full, valve is automatically switched off. We also develop another model wherein there is single motor for single overhead water tank. So for second method, we call master slave combination. So at the tank side, we have installed master device, and at the motor side, we have installed slave device. So when water level in the overhead tanks falls below critical level, like 30%, this master unit sends command using IoT to slave device. And this slave device switches on the motor pump. Once overhead tank becomes full, master device detects it and sends control message to the slave device using IoT. And the slave device switches off the motor pump. So this system completely prevents overflow of the water. In addition, this master device, slave device can also be controlled through the Android app. So we have developed two different models. That is master slave combination, and another method is for multiple tanks only one water pump. So this is the photograph of IoT based system. We have used industry grade solenoidal valve. Industry grade solenoidal valves are a little bit expensive, but they last long. Their operating life is more than 5 years. In this slide, you will see different views of the solenoidal valve. The solenoidal valve has 230 volt AC coil. The solenoidal valves are also available in 12 volt coil, 24 volt coil, and so on. It is better to use solenoidal valve having AC coil. The advantage is this AC coil we can control simply with relay. If you use DC coil of 12 volt or 24 volt, you require additional power supply, additional DC power supply to control that coil. This solenoidal valve shown in this figure has 1-inch outlet. It has input side and output side. There is direction given on this valve. So depending upon diameter of this outlet or inlet diameter, this solenoidal valve has specific cost. On the right hand side, you will see low quality solenoidal valve. If you make use of low quality solenoidal valve for practical implementation, after a few months, it will start malfunctioning. Coil in the solenoidal valve may get burned, or there may be issue inside the diaphragm of the solenoidal valve. These are the photographs of IoT-based systems which we have installed in our hostel campus. These photographs are taken after 1.5 years. So this system we have installed 1.5 years ago. Now what I want to do is I want to show videos of the installed system. Video duration is very, very small. In the first video, you will see solenoidal valve installed at one side. Diameter of this pipe is 1.5 inch. Price of this solenoidal valve is around 5,000 rupees. In the second video, you will see here, we are controlling this unit through Android app. So at the beginning, the system is operated in auto mode. Now with the help of this Android app, we'll put the system in manual mode and we'll switch the solenoid valve on and off.
Internet check, okay.
So in this system, we have given one button to check the internet. So we can also check whether internet is available at device side or not. We have given audio indications. So I have selected manual
Set
mode.
to manual mode.
So manual mode is set. Now I am switching off solenoid valve.
Valve turned off.
So valve is switched off. I have put automatic mode.
Set to automatic mode.
So in automatic mode, as water level is below 60%, valve is switched on. This is the internal circuit. Pi chip is mounted on the lower side of the PCB. In the fourth video, you will see commands received at cloud side. So whenever I send any command, it is received in cloud.
Set to manual mode.
And through cloud, it goes to device.
Valve turned off.
The data transmitted by device also received in cloud, and from cloud it comes to the Android app.
Valve turned on. Valve turned off.
New received
Internet
data is
check,
shown in
okay.
orange color. You will see
Set to automatic mode.
whenever new data is received in cloud, it is indicated in orange color. These are the screenshots of Android app developed for our IoT-based water management system. What we have done is, we have grouped 24 overhead water tanks under boys hostel category, girls hostel category, guest house, and third category is motors. So for example, when you click on the motors tab, another screen will be open, and here we have given different buttons, like whether motor is on or off, that indication is given. We can also control this motor with the help of these touch buttons. Say for example, if motor is on and if you want to switch it off, so just touch this off button, motor will get switched off. We can also check whether internet connection is available at device side or not. This is for motor. The second slide shows details of uh, Android app for overhead water tank. So like if you touch on the boys hostel, another screen will be open. So here what we are showing is D side tank. Current water level is 60%. Mode of operation is automatic. Valve state is on. With the help of these touch buttons given here, you can put the system into manual mode. With the help of automatic button, you can bring the system back to automatic mode. You can also control valve with the help of these touch buttons, valve on, valve off. And you can also check internet connection availability. Next project I want to discuss is IoT-based electric power measurement and demand control system. So first of all, understand what is meant by this demand control system. So I would like to open electricity bill of our institute. In different states of India, there are state electricity boards. So this is the electricity bill of Maharashtra State Electricity Board. The first important parameter I want to highlight here is, let me open bill here. first important parameter I want to highlight here is contract demand. Whenever we apply for electrical connection, especially commercial or industrial connection, usually it is 3-phase. In the application, we must mention contract demand. So in our application, we mention 350 kVA, and this contract demand depends upon how much electricity industry or organization consumes monthly, and accordingly, this contract demand must be mentioned in the application of electrical connection. In this electricity bill, there are different charges. So like power factor. This bill also depends upon power factor. I am not going to details about this power factor. My main focus is on this demand charges. What I want to highlight here is demand charges. This demand charges is directly related to kVA demand. K means kilo, volt means V means volt, and A means ampere. kVA stands for kilovolt ampere. Kilovolt ampere. Now voltage is per phase voltage is 220 volt. Per phase voltage is 220 volt, and our connection is 3-phase. So for 3 phases, for example, on each phase, if current is 100 ampere on each phase, it may not be necessarily same. For example, on RYB phases, current is 100 ampere. It may change according to power consumption. On each phase, voltage is 220. So multiplied by 220 volt. So how much we get here? 2200 VA. And in kilo kVA it becomes 22,000 VA. So it will become 22 kVA. Total 3 pages are there. So it will become 66 kVA. So our contract demand is 350 kVA. Utilization of electricity in any industry or any institute, it is not same throughout the day. During peak time, it may increase. For example, in institute, there are lathe machines in workshop. So when lathe machines are operated, more number of air conditioners are switched on. Power demand will increase. So kVA demand will increase. In the bill, it is also mentioned that 60% of demand is 210 kVA. So if your utilization is below 210 kVA, demand charges will be charged for utilization of 210 kVA. Let us understand this project in detail. Our contract kVA demand is for 350, and 60% of this, 60% of contract kVA is 210. Now suppose if kVA utilization is below 21 kVA, then only when kVA utilization is below 60% of demand, 60% of contract demand, demand charges are applied for 210 kVA, and for each kVA, what are the charges? 432. So if I multiply 432 into 210, our 60% of contract demand is 210 kVA. I have highlighted here. So if you calculate the demand charge in rupees, it will be, for each kVA, what are the charges? Charges are Rs 432. So Rs 432 into 210. So this amount is 432 into 210. This is 90,720 rupees. 90,720 rupees. For each kVA, what are the charges? 432 rupees. So even your utilization is below 210 kVA, in the electricity bill, charges are applied for use of 210 kVA, even though utilization is below it. Now suppose during peak hours, your kVA utilization exceeds this 210, then what will happen? During peak hours, for example, more number of air conditioners are switched on, lathe machines are switched on, then your kVA demand may cross this 60% of contract demand. Say for example, if it becomes 320 kVA, so if this kVA demand increases to 320 kVA just for 30 minutes, if it increases for just 30 minutes, then this state electricity board will impose again another penalty. So if your kVA utilization exceeds 60% of contract demand, then there is possibility in saving the penalty. Now suppose your kVA utilization exceeds 210 kVA, and if it becomes, for example, 320 kVA, so this kVA demand increases to, for example, 320 kVA for 20 minutes, then penalty is not imposed. If this kVA demand increases to 320 kVA for 30 minutes, then also there is no penalty. But if this kVA demand increases beyond 30 minutes, then penalty is imposed. And even if in a period of 1 month, if your kVA utilization becomes 320 kVA for more than 30 minutes only once, then bigger penalty is imposed. And this penalty is calculated like this: 320 multiplied by RS 432. This is in Maharashtra. In other state, these calculations will be different. So 432 into 320. Total it becomes 1,38,240. And whenever kVA utilization is below contract demand, that is below 210, then you are charged 90,720 rupees. So what is the difference? Difference is 138,240 minus 9,720. So we can save here around 47,520 rupees. So there is possibility of saving around 47,000 rupees. Remember here, when kVA utilization exceeds your contract demand for more than 30 minutes, then penalty is imposed, this additional penalty. So what you can do is, to save this penalty, you can implement IoT based system, and you can monitor overall power consumption of your institute or industry, for example. And after monitoring this, measuring this power consumption, you can put this data on cloud, where you can connect other slave devices. So architecture is like this. I have shown one slave device here. There could be multiple slave devices. Let me take example of institute. In institute, the devices like computer consume more power, especially computer labs altogether. In computer lab, there could be 40 computers, 50 computers, something like this. In workshop, there are high HP motors. Then in some laboratories, there are air conditioners. So devices like computer lab, air conditioners, AC motors, and computer lab is source of big power consumption. So during peak hours, if increased kVA demand is detected with help of master, and if that information is put on the cloud, then slave devices can continuously check what is the current power consumption of the organization, what is the current power consumption of the industry. So this slave device, for example, can be installed in computer laboratory, and in most of the computer laboratories there are inverters. So this slave device can take intelligent decision, like if kVA demand exceeds 60% of contract demand, then what this slave device can do is, this slave device can switch off the AC power supply coming from state electricity board, and it can put entire computer lab on inverter. And inverter usually has backup of around 1 to 2 hours. So during this critical time, if this computer lab is operated on inverter, then this KVA demand can be reduced. So these slave devices can be installed at multiple locations in organization, like different computer labs where there are more number of air conditioners, and this power consumption can be reduced below 60% of contract. So this way we can save this penalty, additional penalty. So that's why this system is also called IoT based demand control system. So we are controlling the demand of the organization, electrical demand. See, once again I repeat, if your KVA demand exceeds 60% of contract demand for more than 30 minutes only once in a month, then penalty is imposed. And if your demand exceeds regularly, then again same penalty, amount of penalty remains same. So if your demand exceeds 60% of contract once or 50 times, penalty is same. So for measurement of power, what we require? We require current sensor. So I'm going to talk about use of this current sensor for measurement of power. So CT I have already demonstrated through one video. CT stands for current transformer. Current transformer can measure only AC current. It cannot measure DC current because it works on Faraday's law of induction. So Faraday's law of induction is applicable for time varying magnetic field. It is not applicable for DC magnetic field. So CTs are useful for measurement of only AC current. They are not applicable for measurement of DC current. To measure the AC current, we can also make use of Hall effect sensor. Hall effect sensor can be used for measurement of both AC as well as DC current. Hall effect sensor can be used to measure both AC and DC current. However, current transformer can measure only AC current. These current transformers are available with different current ratios. For example, 100:5 ratio. What does it mean? When primary of the current transformer is carrying 100 ampere current, then secondary of the current transformer gives 5 ampere on the secondary side. So CTs are available like 100:5, 200:5, something like this. So in 100:5 ratio, it implies that primary current is 20 times greater than secondary current. In current transformer, your primary is current carrying wire. There is no physical primary. Primary of the current transformer is current carrying wire, and that must be passed through the CT. First of all, let us look at the CT construction. So CT is shown here. So in the CT construction, there is hollow core made up of ferromagnetic material. So purpose of using ferromagnetic material is to increase magnetic plug density inside the core. This ferrite core is cylindrical in shape. On this ferrite core, copper coil is wound. This is the copper coil. So magnetic field produced by this current carrying conductor. This is the current carrying conductor. It carries AC current. CT cannot measure DC current. So this current carrying conductor is called primary. And the coil wound on this ferrite core is called secondary. So here primary is different as compared with conventional transformer. So when AC current flows through this conductor, it produces circulating magnetic field. One such direction is shown here. This is the direction of current, direction of magnetic field. And you know that magnetic plug density is equal to mu into H. This current carrying conductor produces magnetic plug density. So this magnetic plug density passes through the center of each and every turn in this coil. According to Faraday's law of induction, voltage is induced across the coil, across the CT coil, because this time varying current produces time varying magnetic field. And according to Faraday's law of induction, time varying magnetic field produces voltage in the closed circuit. So our closed circuit is coil, and coil consists of n number of turns. Purpose of putting more number of turns is to increase the voltage, because one turn induces small voltage. For n turns we get total voltage n times voltage induced in one turn. So voltage induced across this secondary here is directly proportional to current flowing on the conductor here, and this conductor is passed through the CT. Look at here, copper coil is wound on this cylindrical ferrite core, and to protect this copper, this insulation tape is wrapped in this CT, and wire is passed through here at the center of the CT. So if you pass both phase and neutral, voltage induced will be 0. Through CT, if you pass both phase and neutral, what will happen? On phase wire, current will be flowing in one direction, and in neutral wire, current will be flowing in the opposite direction. So total magnetic field will get cancelled when you pass both phase and neutral through the CT. So just pass only one wire for measurement of AC current. This shows symbol of the current transformer. This is the winding, and this thick line is the current. This is the current carrying conductor. Different types of CTs are shown on the right hand side, like 300S to 5U. So when current on this wire is 300 ampere, current on the secondary reach up to 5 ampere. 150S to 5 ampere, 100S to 5 ampere. So CTs are available with different ratios. So 300 means primary current is 300 and secondary current induced is around 5 ampere. So properties of CT. So open circuit voltage of CT is always high. It may reach kilovolts. Remember, if you put current carrying conductor inside the CT, if this current is large, in the absence of any load across the CT coil, across the secondary winding of the CT, induced voltage may go up to kilovolts, like 5 kilovolts, 6 kilovolts, and so on. The copper coil used in the CT has insulation. It is insulated with electrically non-conductive material like varnish. So if induced voltage goes in the range of kilovolt, like 5 kilovolts, 6 kilovolts, something like this, then this insulation in the winding get damaged, and then nearby turns may get short circuited. So therefore, never operate CT without any resistor connected across the CT winding. The resistor which is connected across the CT winding is called burden resistor, and the video I have already discussed what is the effect of burden resistor. Burden resistor always decreases open circuit voltage. So burden resistor is always must while using the CT. If it is not used, then larger primary current may induce very large voltage, and it may damage insulation in the winding. So open circuit voltage of CT is very high, so it requires burden resistor. Burden resistor is our conventional resistor. As we are connecting across CT coil, it is putting burden. That's why it is called burden resistor. So value of burden resistor is usually specified in the data sheet of CT. The CTs are available with different accuracy. So accuracy class like 0.2 accuracy class, 0.5, 1, something like this. So 0.2 years accuracy class means that measurement has an error rate of 0.2% over a given current measurement range. Now, what is the difference between conventional voltage transformer and our CT? Both conventional transformer and CT works on same principle, Faraday law of induction. But there is small difference. In conventional transformer, we have primary and secondary. All of you know that. In conventional transformer, secondary current affects the primary current. I repeat, there is mutual inductance. In conventional transformer, there is mutual inductance between primary and secondary. I do not see my PPT, just a minute. This important point I want to highlight here. Let me open the PPT. This is the schematic diagram of conventional transformer. It has primary and secondary winding. So primary current is always affected by secondary current through mutual inductance. Whereas in current transformer, look at here, this magnetic flux, same magnetic flux is passing through primary and secondary here. Whenever AC voltage is applied to the primary, it induces magnetic flux. This magnetic flux passes through both primary and secondary here. So this time varying magnetic flux induces voltage in the secondary winding of the transformer. And according to Lenz's law, induced voltage opposes the cause that produces it. And what is the cause here? Primary magnetic flux. So depending upon current flowing in the secondary, primary current is affected. So in case of current transformer, there is no effect of secondary current on the primary current because construction is different. So construction of CT is different. Therefore, there is no effect of secondary current. There is no effect of secondary current on the primary current. And because of this, under open circuit condition, large amount of voltage gets induced and that may damage insulation in the coil winding. Now, how to implement this project? Let me quickly explain how to implement this project. At the master side, you must have AC power measurement circuit, and to measure the AC power, you need to measure current and voltage, both. Voltage measurement is very easy. For current measurement, you require 3 CTs. 3 CTs for 3 phases, R phase, Y phase and B phase. So you have here R phase, Y phase and B phase. Then voltage induced across the CT winding must be first of all converted into DC signal and then down converted in the range of 0 to 5 volt. And then with the help of ADC, we can measure DC voltage proportional to current flowing on each phase, R phase, Y phase and B phase. So different types of CTs are shown here. Let us understand this current measurement using CT, circuit diagram. There are multiple ways to design the signal conditioning circuit for measurement of AC current. Understand first circuit. In the first circuit, this is the CT coil. This is the symbol of CT. Primary of the CT is shown. Primary of CT is nothing but current carrying conductor. This conductor may carry 100 ampere, 200 ampere, 300 ampere AC current. So this current carrying conductor is passed through the CT and it induces voltage across the CT coil according to magnitude of current on this conductor. We require here burden resistor. I have not specifically mentioned here value of the burden resistor. So it can be few ohms or few kilo ohms. As voltage induced here is AC. Voltage induced across CT coil is AC. In the video I have already showed. This must be rectified first. This must be rectified and converted to DC. So we can use here full wave rectifier or half wave rectifier. In my product, I always use half wave rectifier to keep the circuit size small. So I use half wave rectifier. At the output of rectifier, I use electrolytic capacitor. So with the help of electrolytic capacitor, what we get is DC. This DC may not be pure, small ripple will be there. So there may be small ripple in this voltage. At the output of half rectifier, I am using electrolytic capacitor. The value I use is around 100 microfarad. If this voltage is greater than 5 volt, if this VDC is greater than 5 volt, then we require voltage divider network, because if voltage is greater than 5 volt, microcontroller may malfunction. On analog pin of microcontroller, voltage should not exceed 5.5. And if microcontroller is operated on 5 volt, for any analog voltage greater than 5 volt, you will get same result. That means ADC result will get saturated. That is, reading for 5 volt and reading for 5.5 volt will be same. You cannot differentiate the current. So therefore, when you do signal conditioning circuit for measurement of AC current, you must ensure that voltage applied on analog pin of the microcontroller should be in the range of 0 to 5 volt. So analog voltage must be in the range of 0 to 5 volt. 0 to 5 volt. Say for example, if you want to measure current up to 200 ampere, then for 200 ampere, the voltage that you get at the output of the signal conditioning circuit must be 5 volt. It should not exceed that. Now there are some applications where device connected may have different power rating. Example is automatic water level control system. In automatic water level control system, if you want to sell it in the market, then water pumps have different horsepower rating, like 1 HP motor, 2 HP motor, 3 HP motor, and so on. Problem is, for different types of motors, you may require different type of signal conditioning circuit. So you can do one simple method, automatic gain selection. So I showed here one circuit where you can modify attenuation factor. So what I have done here is, I have used here 4 resistors. First resistor is R1. This R1 resistor is connected in between output of the rectifier and analog pin of the microcontroller. And from analog pin of the microcontroller to other port pins of the microcontroller, I use 3 resistors, R2, R3, R4. And this resistor may have different value. Let me take some random values of this resistor. For example, this first resistor is 1K. This resistor is, for example, 2K. R4 is, for example, 3.3K. This R1 is, for example, 1K, and so on. Usually, you must take all these resistors of high value. Let me change the values, because if you take small value, small resistance will come across this electrolytic capacitor and this ripple will increase here. As we are doing voltage measurement, we can always use higher value of this resistor. So instead of the small resistances, let us make use of slightly larger resistances. Suppose this resistor is 2.2K value. So we may use here, for example, 10K resistor, 20K resistor, and 33K resistor. Example I have taken. We require here Zener diode, and voltage rating of the Zener diode must be 5.1 volt. So this Zener diode prevents voltage exceeding 5.1 volt. The reason is, if analog voltage on microcontroller port pin is greater than 5.5, your program will not run properly. Software running on the microcontroller will hang up. So program execution will be halted. Now what we'll do is, we can select any combination of resistors. So if you put logic 0 on RC1 pin, what will happen? This R2 will get grounded. If you put logic 0 on RC1 pin, R2 will get grounded. And if you make this RC2 and RC3 input pin, make them input, make input, what will happen? Input impedance of microcontroller port pin is very, very large. So this R3 and R4 will be in floating condition. When you configure RC2, RC3 port pin as an input pin, R3 and R4 will be in floating condition. So in the circuit we will have R1 and R2 only. R2 we have grounded here. So we have grounded here. So what is the voltage here? V analog will be R2 upon R1 plus R2 into voltage here. Suppose this voltage is VDC. So this will be multiplied by VDC. So voltage applied on analog pin will be R2 upon R1 plus R2 into VDC. Now if you ground resistor R2, so what you need to do is, just ground just ground R3. You can ground R3 by connecting, by making by applying logic 0 on RC2 pin. Never apply logic 1 on RC1, RC2, RC3. Your circuit will malfunction. You can do only two things. Either apply logic 0 or make corresponding port pin floating by making trace bit 1. Just by making trace bit 1, just make this port pin digital input. I am not saying analog input, just make it digital input with the help of trace bit. So when you make RC1 and RC3 pins digital input, R2 and R4 will be in floating condition. So second possibility is so there are number of combinations you can do here, and with these combinations you can get desired analog voltage, and you have to ensure that maximum voltage coming on analog pin should be less than 5 volt. So you select resistor combination in such a way that for a given horsepower rating of the motor, voltage coming here should not exceed 5 volt, and with the help of software program you can automatically select any combination. So in my water level controller I implement this type of logic. So for example, now RC1 pin is input. So with the help of trace bit, make RC1 pin input, make RC3 pin input, and apply logic 0 on RC2 pin. So as you are applying logic 0 on RC2 pin, it must be output pin. So RC2 pin is output and apply logic 0. So what will happen? Other end of the R3 will get grounded. Now voltage coming on analog pin will be R3 upon R1 plus R2 into VDC. So we will have here R3. If you simultaneously make all 3 pins output and apply logic 0, what will happen? R2, R3, R4 will come in parallel. Then you will have R equivalent. See, if all 3 pins are output and logic 0 is applied, then R2, R3, R4 will come in parallel. So you have now ground on RC3 pin, ground on RC1 pin. So R equivalent will be R2 parallel, R3 parallel, R4. And now your analog voltage will be here, R equivalent. Of course, last time I have not changed here R3. For previous condition, it will be R3 upon R1 plus R3. Now it will be so when all 3 resistors are grounded through port pin, analog voltage on microcontroller port pin will be R equivalent upon R1 plus R equivalent into VDC. So in dry run condition, in automatic water level controller, we require current transformer, and use of current transformer is for dry run condition sensing. So what is dry run? When any motor pump pumps the water, current is large. Motor pump draws larger current. Motor pump draws larger current while pumping water. When motor pump runs idle without pumping water, it draws less current. So by measuring this relative difference, we can sense whether motor pump is pumping water or running dry. So when motor pump is not pumping any kind of water, it is called dry run condition. So we can detect dry run condition by measuring the current, and this current we are measuring in terms of DC voltage proportional to current. So this DC voltage that we get here is indication of whether motor is pumping water or running dry. Another possibility is, like in the first circuit, we are using diode here. So as we are putting diode here, there is drop of 0.7 volt. So in actual current measurement, this drop is not allowed. So you must use another signal conditioning circuit using operational amplifier, precision rectifier. However, for dry run condition, without op amp, with the help of this simple circuit, we can sense the dry run condition. Another circuit is using precision half wave rectifier. Say for example, when your output voltage, usually go for the circuit when your output voltage across the CT coil is below 5 volt. Say for example, output voltage of CT is 2 volt, 3 volt, 4 volt or something 5 volt. then go for this circuit. So it is precision half wave rectifier. During output coming across CT coil is AC. During negative half cycle, at the output of this op amp, we get positive voltage. It is in inverting mode. So when input voltage is negative, less than 0, output voltage will become positive. So this diode will conduct. Use of precision half wave rectifier is that voltage drop across diode gets divided by open loop. That is, voltage drop across this diode is, for example, Vf. Then due to use of operational amplifier here, actual voltage drop across diode will be 0.7 divided by open loop gain of the amplifier. Open loop gain of the operational amplifier. And this open loop gain of the operational amplifier is very large, around 2 lakh, 3 lakh. So 0.7, for example, if open loop gain is 2 lakh, then voltage drop across diode will be very, very small in microvolts. And conventionally it is 0.7 volt. So we can measure voltage induced across CT coil in the millivolt range as well with the help of this circuit. And gain of this circuit is minus R2 by R1. So as voltage drop across diode gets divided by open loop gain of the amplifier, this is as good as short circuit. So during negative half cycle, we get here short circuit. Now gain of this amplifier, as we have here short circuit, it becomes inverting amplifier, and gain will be voltage, closed loop voltage gain. I will write simply G. Closed loop voltage gain is minus R2 by R1. And output voltage will be V out during negative half cycle. V out is minus R2 upon R1 into V in. So if ratio of R2 by R1 is 1, V out will be minus V in. During positive half cycle, voltage at the output of op amp, during positive half cycle, during positive half cycle, at the output of op amp, we'll get here positive voltage. Negative voltage. During positive half cycle of input, here we'll get negative voltage. Because of negative voltage, this diode will be in reverse bias condition. So therefore, voltage at the output will become 0. So what we get at the output of this operational amplifier is rectified voltage, rectified positive voltage. So we need to connect capacitor, otherwise our output voltage will be pulsating. So voltage that we get here is pulsating DC. So to measure this voltage, we must first of all convert it into pure DC by putting electrolytic capacitor at the output of this precision half wave rectifier. So when we put this capacitor, we'll get DC voltage. And there is one more resistor connected here. In the absence of this resistor, capacitor will take very long time to discharge. So as we are putting here 100K resistor, we will get DC voltage with very small ripple content. Ripple content will be very, very small. And then this voltage will be measured using on-chip ADC. So this voltage is directly proportional to AC current flowing on the current carrying conductor. So current carrying conductor is here primary. So DC voltage that we get at the output of this precision half wave rectifier is directly proportional to AC current being measured. Another circuit I have shown. This circuit is useful when voltage is less than 5 volt. When voltage here, when V in here is less than 5 volt, then go for this circuit. Another circuit is when voltage is greater than 5, then what we need to do is we need to decrease this voltage level. So we can use here voltage divider. Depending upon your requirement, you can go for variable gain. So for variable gain, what you can do is you can use multiple resistors and connect them to port pin. And you can select any combination of resistor according to requirement. Say for example, if you require larger attenuation, if this voltage coming here is for example 50 volt DC, then you can go for larger attenuation. So for larger attenuation, you can ground all these resistors. When you ground all these resistors, what will happen? Equivalent resistance here over here will get decrease, and you will get here smaller voltage you will get. At the output of this voltage divider network, I have connected operational amplifier, and this is with the help of this operational amplifier, peak detector is implemented. So this is peak detector instead of rectifier. At the output of peak detector, we have connected capacitor and resistor. So what we get here is, again we will get here pulsating DC voltage. Maximum DC voltage is proportional to peak voltage here. Let me show. Suppose peak voltage coming here. We get here AC voltage. Here AC voltage may be large. For example, peak voltage here is 50. With the help of this voltage divider, suppose we have brought it down to 4.9 volt here. Peak voltage is 4.9. So at the output of peak detector, we get peak voltage, which is similar to peak voltage on the input side. So we'll have here 4.9 volt. So you make use of this RC1, R3, R4, R5 in such a way that your output voltage at the output of peak detector should be always less than 5 volt. It should not exceed that. So for example, if our current measurement range is 0 to 100 ampere, then for 100 ampere current, you try to get 4.9 volt. Now one simple calculation. We'll take up this circuit. There is no gain adjustment circuit, fixed gain in this circuit. For example, we have a gain of op amp equal to minus R2 by R1. Suppose we are getting here 5 volt when input current, I will make one table instead. Input current I in, that is here, or I primary, let us write. When I primary and voltage here is V out. V out in DC. Say for 100 ampere current, we are getting output voltage of 5 volt. Then for 0 current, of course, output voltage is 0. Then for 50 ampere current, if there is linearity, primary current in ampere and output voltage in volts. If current transformer is linear, then for 50 ampere current, it will give 2.5 volt on the output side of the signal conditioning circuit. So clearly, this DC voltage that we get at the output of this rectifier here is proportional to primary current. So by converting this analog voltage, this V out is analog voltage. With the help of microcontroller, we can measure this analog voltage. If you measure this analog voltage with the help of 10-bit ADC, then what is the resolution? So for 10-bit ADC, our voltage step size we already calculated. So V step size is 5 volt upon 2 raised to 10. 10 is 10 bits in ADC. So your step size is 4.88 millivolt when positive reference voltage is 5 volt. This is for reference voltage of positive reference voltage is equal to 5 volt for ADC. Now 5 volt upon 2 raised to 10 is 4.88 millivolt. Likewise, we can measure maximum current up to 100 ampere in this circuit. So if you divide this 100 ampere by 2 raised to 10, you will get resolution for input current being measured. So I step for input current is 100 ampere upon 2 raised to 10. So 0.0 approximately equal to 0.098 ampere. So we can differentiate current in steps of 0.098 ampere when we use 10-bit ADC. So if you go for higher bits, we can further differentiate smaller steps. So with the help of 10-bit ADC, if our maximum current measurement range is 100 ampere, then we can differentiate input current in steps of 0.098 ampere. So once you know corresponding equivalent decimal result, you know what is the current. Likewise, you measure the voltage, and for voltage measurement, Very simple circuit. For measurement of voltage, use conventional transformer. Conventional transformer. For example, you are measuring phase voltage. Then you will have here 220 volt AC. This is secondary. So use conventional transformer with secondary voltage like 9 volt. So we will have here 9 volt on this side. Use here half wave rectifier. No need to go for full wave rectifier. Half wave rectifier, put capacitor, and this voltage is always greater than 5 volts. So what you need here? You require voltage divider circuit. So you do not require variable voltage because here voltage may vary, for example, from 180 to 280 like this. So you will have fixed known range here. So you will have here R1, you will have here R2. Now you calculate this R1 and R2 in such a way that for highest input AC voltage, for example, highest input AC voltage is 300. Then for 300 volt, you try to get here voltage close to 5 volt. Let's say 5 volt exactly. So when this voltage falls down to 180, voltage coming here will decrease. So voltage coming across this R2 resistor should not exceed 5 volt when input AC voltage is maximum. So let us consider maximum voltage of 300 volt. So this voltage across R2 is indication of primary AC voltage. And what we want to measure is AC voltage. So with the help of this number, you calculate what is actual AC voltage, multiply it by current, you will get VA, voltage into current. And this information you can use for implementation of your project. So you can measure this AC power with the help of current transformer. You can measure AC voltage with the help of step down transformer like 220 volt on primary, 9 volt on secondary, use half wave rectifier. Put electrolytic capacitor around 100 microfarad here. Then calculate R1, R2 values in such a way that you get 5 volt across R2. And this voltage you measure with the help of on-chip ADC. So you will have to connect this line to the analog pin of microcontroller. Analog pin of microcontroller. And with the help of on-chip ADC, you convert this analog voltage into digital number and process that digital number to get the actual voltage. You can directly map. So for example, our input AC voltage range, we can even consider here from smaller range. Of course, there is a drop of 0.7 volt here, but that 0.7 volt is already compensated here by taking 5 volt here. What is our highest voltage here? 300 volt. So if we divide 300 by 2 raised to 10, where 10 is number of bits in ADC. So 200 upon 2 raised to 10. .29 volt. So we can differentiate input AC voltage in steps of 0.29 volt. So this is the resolution. So this demand charge control system I already explained. So you require number of slave devices. I have showed only one slave device. In different laboratories, in different workshops, you can install one slave device. And slave device will continuously check overall power consumption of industry or organization through data placed on the cloud. Master will continuously measure overall power consumption, and that data will be placed on cloud, and slave devices will continuously monitor data on the cloud. So it is continuous process. Then IoT based classroom electricity control system. If total load in the classroom is greater than 1.5 kilowatt, then go for contactor. So make use of contactor for controlling overall load in the classroom. There are two ways you can control entire electricity in the classroom. You can switch off entire electricity, that is electricity of all devices together, or you can selectively control individual devices, that is up to you. So for example, if you want to control all devices together, if you want to switch off all the devices together, and if your overall load of the classroom is greater than 1.5 kilowatt, then go for contactor. Contactor has more operating life as compared with relay. So to connect this contactor, what you need to do is, for example, this is your small relay, conventional sugar cube relay, SPDT type of relay. This is relay coil. I am showing here symbol of relay. SPDT relay has three contacts, three terminals here. One is common terminal, another one is normally closed, and third one is normally open. Common terminal is always connected to NC terminal when relay is in off condition. When voltage is applied to the relay coil, this common terminal gets connected to NO. So what you need to do is, this contactor also has electromagnet. Electromagnetic means it has a coil which produces magnetic field. This electromagnet is inside this contactor. This electromagnet operates on 220 volt. So what you can do is, one contact of this electromagnet is available here and another one on the bottom side. So what you need to do is, one end you directly connected to neutral. One end you directly connected to neutral, and phase wire you must first of all connect to you connect it to common terminal. Phase must be connected to common terminal here, and this NO contact must be connected to this remaining wire of this contactor, electromagnet. So when this small relay is switched on, you require small relay to operate this contactor. Small relay is must here. With the help of small relay, you make this contactor on and off. And three-phase load or maybe a single phase load, you can connect on input and output terminals here. So you have here three input connections, and on the side, on the lower side, you have three output connections. So this is input side. If you want to control three-phase load, then you connect RYB on the input side, and then you will get here RYB on the output side. So when relay this contactor is switched on, this input will get connected to output, and your device will get switched on. This three-phase contactor you can use for controlling the single phase. What you can do is, if you short circuit three input pins and if you short circuit three output pins, your current rating gets increased by factor of 3. So for example, if rating of single contact is 10 ampere, when you short circuit three input contacts, current rating will become 30 ampere. This you can do for controlling the single phase load. For three phase load, never short circuit input side, never short circuit output side. Otherwise, there will be big short circuit if you put short circuit across RYB phases. I am telling you, short circuit input and output side only for controlling the single phase load. So what you do is, with the help of small relay, control the electromagnet of contactor. Electromagnet requires only small amount of current, around 100 or 200 milliampere current. So with the help of small relay, make electromagnetic inside the contactor on and off, and that way you can control a very higher amount of load connected to the contactor. So with this, I have come to the end of today's presentation. Thank you. We'll go for question answer. Kindly repeat second project. What is second project in the list? IoT based fuel level measurement. This fuel level measurement part using FDC 1004 I have already explained. So what you need to do is, the data which I acquired by interfacing FDC 1004 with I2C protocol, same data you first of all convert into fuel level in percentage, like 1%, 2%, 3%, up to 100%. The method of calibration I already discussed in one of the previous session. So I request you to watch the previous recorded session where I explain how to calibrate capacitive sensor used for fuel level measurement. So I have in detail explained calibration method. So once you get data from the sensor, which is proportional to the capacitance of the coaxial capacitor, what you need to do is that data you divide by proper divisor and convert that into percentage level. The data that you get for percentage level, you transmit to the cloud, and from cloud it will go to the Android app. So this next part, that is data transmission from microcontroller to cloud and from cloud to Android app, this we are going to cover from Tuesday onwards. So from Tuesday onwards, we'll have sessions related to data transmission from microcontroller to cloud, from cloud to Android app, and vice versa. So these sessions will begin on coming Tuesday. So half part is already covered. That is how to get the data proportional to fuel level in the tank. So that part is already covered. There was issue regarding my voice. So cloud programming part will start from Tuesday, already mentioned. Repeat about the project IoT based non-conductive liquid measurement. I already discussed many times. See, we have to construct coaxial capacitor. We have to construct coaxial capacitor like this. In this coaxial capacitor, when there is no fuel, capacitance will be small. Fuel is electrically non-conductive. It has dielectric constant. Dielectric constant of diesel is around 2. All of you know that capacitance of any capacitor depends upon dielectric constant. So in the absence of fuel, there is air. Relative dielectric constant of air is 1. So when fuel starts increasing inside this coaxial capacitor, capacitance will increase. So this increased capacitance is indication of presence of fuel inside the coaxial capacitor. So for higher level of the fuel inside the coaxial capacitor, we get larger capacitance. So this capacitance is directly proportional to fuel level. The measurement of capacitance using FDC 1004, I have already explained. So what I recommend is, you watch the previous recorded session 1 or 2 times. You will understand how to measure this fuel level with the help of this coaxial capacitor. For measurement of moisture in the soil, you require different type of capacitive sensor. You cannot use this coaxial capacitor for measurement of soil moisture. The reason is, if you put this coaxial capacitor in soil, soil may get stuck inside this capacitor. So for soil moisture measurement, construct different coaxial capacitor, something like this. And procedure of calibration is same for soil moisture measurement and fuel level measurement. Just get the data from the sensor in the absence of, for example, in the absence of fuel. When fuel is 10%, when fuel level is 20%, when fuel level is 50%, and so on. And process that data so as to convert to the quantity being measurement. So it may be level of the fuel, it can be moisture level, content, and so on. If we design any project, can we apply for patent? Answer is yes or no. If there is novelty in the development of project, if there is some kind of innovation, then you can go for patent. I'm going to provide recorded session on IPR. Because of limited time, I'm not going to conduct live session on intellectual property right. So I have delivered session on IPR many times to different organizations. So I'm going to provide link of the recorded session to you. Also, any issue for apply patent, because many patents already in process filed. See, whenever you apply for patent, patent office examines your application. It compares your claims in your application with previous work done. If there is similarity in the work, then patent is not granted. If there is no similarity and if there is novelty in your work, then patent is granted. And it takes very long time for patent to get granted. See, I have explained one project in detail and I told implementation of other projects in short. So we have limited time. Next 2 weeks we will spend on cloud integration and Android app development. So I am not going to discuss other projects in detail. It will take very long time. So one project, that is use of FDC 1004 for measurement of fuel level, I have explained in detail. And for power measurement, I told you how to make use of CT and how to design the signal conditioning circuit. So by using the concepts which I explained today, you can develop the power measurement system. See, for measurement of current, you require separate analog pin, and for measurement of voltage, you require another analog pin. You cannot use same analog pin. For measuring current on 3 phases, you require 3 separate analog channels. So there is small confusion here. If you are using 3 CTs, for measurement of 3-phase current, we require 3 CTs. So for 3 CTs, you require 3 signal conditioning circuits separately. So you will have 3 analog outputs for 3 current transformers. Similarly, for measurement of phase to phase voltage, it is up to you whether you want to measure phase to neutral or phase to phase voltage. So you require 3 measurements. Phase measurement, voltage measurement of phase R, phase Y, phase B, if you measure with respect to neutral line. And if you measure phase to phase voltage, then 3 voltages, R2Y, Y2B and RYB, 3 phases. So if you measure phase to phase voltage, then RYB. So we will measure R2Y, Y2B and R2B, 3 phase voltages. And voltage into current becomes VA rating. So this value you can use in your demand control system. So tomorrow's session will be on PCB design, and after that we'll start sessions on cloud side part. Test timing will post on the WhatsApp groups. So tomorrow's test will be after session. Our session will finish around 7:15. So immediately after that, we'll start the quiz. I have used principle of conductivity. I use conductivity sensor for measurement of level. I am measuring discrete levels. I am not measuring continuous level. I am measuring levels like 0%, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80% and 100%. And another method I am using 0%, 30%, 60% and 100%. So I am using water level in discrete levels with the help of conductivity sensor. Question: what is the difference between GSM based versus IoT based system? In GSM based system, there is one major drawback. Drawback is GSM based system works on SMS, and for SMS there is limitation. There are different plans for SMS, like 100 SMS per day, 200 SMS per day, something like this. So if more SMS are transmitted by the devices, after that SMS facility will not be available, and then system may fail. So this is the drawback of SMS based, because GSM based system will rely on SMS. Master will send control signal to slave device using SMS. Slave device will give acknowledgement to master device using SMS. So there is transmission of SMS between master and slave devices, and there is limitation on number of SMS. So because of this, GSM based system is not very much effective. Although I have practically implemented, but it is not very much effective for this wireless water management system. In IoT system, we transmit information in data packets. As we are transmitting information in data packets, we can transmit very large number of packets, even once in a minute, once in a few seconds, without any problem. So in IoT based system, there is no limit on transmission of data. Limit is there, that is in gigabytes. But if devices exchange the data, that will be in few kilobytes. Other questions, please? If we connect relay to contactor, will 220 volt pass through the relay? Let me once again explain. We have microcontroller on this side. This is our PIC microcontroller. PIC 18F4520. Suppose RD1 pin is used for controlling the driver circuit. Then this RD1 pin must be output pin. So use relay driver circuit, BC337 transistor, for example. You will have here relay operating on 5 volt, for example. DC voltage, DC coil voltage is 5. You require here freewheeling diode. This relay will have common terminal, normally closed terminal, and normally open terminal. So this is NC contact, this is NO contact. Now what you do is, you will have contactor. So contactor coil. Let us assume that this block shows contactor, and contactor also has electromagnet. So there is coil. Coil inside this contactor. Coil inside this contactor operates on 220 volt. So if you directly apply 220 volt, contactor will be switched on. But what we want to do is, we want to control this contactor with the help of relay. Why relay? Because electromagnet inside contactor operates on 220 volt. So you cannot control electromagnet inside the contactor using microcontroller port pin. On microcontroller port pin, we have maximum 5 volt. So what we'll do is, through small relay, we'll control electromagnet inside the contactor. So what you do is, you have 220 volt. So 220 volt AC will have neutral and phase. 220 volt AC. So neutral you directly connect to one end of the contactor coil. Phase you connect to the common terminal. This is common terminal of the relay, like this. Now when you apply 5 volt on this RD1 pin, coil inside the small relay will get magnetized. It will produce magnetic field. Then this common terminal will move towards NO terminal. On NO terminal, you connect to the other end of the contactor coil. So what will happen? When you apply logic 1 on the RD1 pin, this relay will be switched on. Then this relay will switch on electromagnet inside the contactor, and then switches in the contactor will get closed. So this is the interfacing. I hope your question is properly answered. How to convert binary number into digital by using programming in MPLAFXID, because I'm stuck in ADC program. See, whenever you convert analog signal into digital signal, it is already binary format. only way of representation is different. Through software, we represent that number in hexadecimal digits or in decimal digits. So microcontroller always understand binary numbers. The 10-bit result that we get in ADC is binary number. So when we combine these bits in the binary number, it becomes hexadecimal number. And with the help of program, we can convert this hexadecimal number into decimal number. That's it. And what we do in the digit separation, we divide hexadecimal number by modulo 10. So in the modulo division, remainder is on a scale of 0 to 9. So hexadecimal number is always in the binary format. So what you do is, you can write your problem in detail and just WhatsApp it to me. Still, if your question is not properly answered, if you think, then you write your problem in detail and send it to me by WhatsApp. Next question, please. So all questions in chat box are over. I'm going to close today's meeting. So thanks for joining today's session. We'll meet tomorrow at 6 p.m. and topic of tomorrow's session is PCB design.